Ladies and gents, let's talk about Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is a game that I've covered for a number of videos now, definitely more in a more negative light than it is positive. And today's video, I'm going to try and not make about that. I guess today's video comes from a place of sorrow, I guess is maybe the right word to say. I guess sorrow for a missed opportunity, because every time I log into this game, I'm reminded of some really good times I had when the game was new and all of the areas were a mystery and no one really knew where to go, what to do. There was no map, but it felt like they were onto something. It felt like at a fundamental level, what they had put into the game was crafted with passion, with integrity, and we were along for the ride. In fact, where I am right now in Thronefast was really promising to see this area. I mean, sure, some of the assets weren't finished, but for the most part, what you could explore, like the Goblin Caves, the skeletons, the initial town, which I think is Avalia in this, it was all just quite cool, to be fair. There was elements of perception. You could go through certain areas and it would flag up like a clue or a description about what you're seeing or smelling, which was a really different take on the MMO genre. The music that you can hear reciting in the background was very dynamic. It kind of suited the mood. In some areas, it was downright good. It was really good. I mean, for example, the first time I explored Wild's End, after a while it became a bit of a pain in the ass, but walking through this whimsical, mystical jungle area with sort of a treetop town or city built into it, with this mystical soundtrack playing in the background, was another level, honestly. In fact, logging into the game today, appreciate it is middle of the day, but let's be honest, even in peak times, there are not a lot of players left. It saddens me. It saddens me to see that this is the state of the game now. And before anyone jumps on the bandwagon and says, well, it's early access, what do you expect? I am not willing to accept that statement as to why the population of the game is so low. There have been a lot of choices that have led to where we are now in the game, population-wise and gameplay-wise, and I won't cater for those in this video for obvious reasons. I was one of the first to say when I first started playing this game that I really didn't enjoy the art direction or the art change, but after playing it for a little while and kind of getting used to the Unity assets, it kind of fits the theme that Pantheon was going for, and the lighting, the color palette, it all kind of seemed to suit. It's not everyone's taste, of course, but I kind of put it to one side and thought to myself, if this is going to get them to a point where they can start producing more and the assets aren't as taxing and they can get the game out and flesh out a little bit more, then hey, I'm all for it. The assets aren't for you, but for the most part, if you can get more of the game sooner, then hey, why would you not? I remember walking these roads for the very first time, coming to this little crossroad here. I do apologize for some of the stutters. The game is not phenomenally optimized, unfortunately. But coming to some of these crossroads here and sort of just working out your orientation, everything was new. Seeing some of the lighting from the lanterns, the bloom, the color palettes, the NPCs that you could speak to here, it was all at a fundamental level. It was all really promising, but it just needed more. This is perfect timing for the video, really, because as you can see, one of the main draws to this game is its dynamic weather, the way that things can just change on a cycle as well as the day and night cycle. It just added a different depth to it. The rain early on looked terrible, whereas now, it looks a lot more plausible. You can hear the cracks of the thunder and the lightning. It's all really in depth, in way more detail than you would see in some AAA games. And it just pains me that somewhere, somehow, that just stopped. All of this promising content, all of this great foundation, you can hear that now, all of it just stopped. Now on YouTube, this is going to be very hard to hear, but right now I'm at the entrance of a cave, sort of half in, half out. In my right earphone, I can hear the rain, the very faint cut off of the rain landing on the outside stones, and on the left side, I can hear the cave. That audio is very difficult to do, even for AAA developers. And this is what I mean. This game has so much lost potential. And to be honest with you, I think we're too far in now. I really do. I feel like we're past the point of no return. And it really pains me, because when I first started playing this game, I was a huge advocate for it. I even made videos detailing how I thought it was going to be the next big thing because it had so much potential. Not many people enjoyed not having a map, but to me, not having a map just meant more exploration, and it led me to this very cave just following my nose, and it led me to a very, very untimely death very early on as you're introduced to pretty much the game's first dungeon outside of the spiders. And the scary thing was, when I first entered this cave, I had no idea how deep it went or what enemies I would face. It was all a mystery. Coupling this mystery up with some revised but old school combat where everything felt snappy and meaningful, it was just such a good time. It was a real social MMO. Everyone was kind of getting to know the game with each other, but with previous experience of like EverQuest and WoW and Lord of the Rings Online. In many ways, it kind of bred the perfect community. We've spoken a lot about the weather effects and the atmosphere of Pantheon, and I guess I'm leaning into that so much because it was such a focal point in my experience throughout the game and what really drew me in. Right now, you can hear the raindrops colliding with the roof of the building that I'm in. Now, I've played a lot of games over my time, and there are not many, if any, that I know of that get this as right as Pantheon. I remember standing in this very bank for the first time, hundreds, and I mean hundreds of players piled up on top of each other. You couldn't even access the NPCs because it was just so busy. People were covered in a circle here, speaking to NPCs, just trying to figure out the way of the world. We were very much in an unknown world at this point, and what's crazy is when you first spawn into Avalia here and you see everything built up, you see NPCs, you've got different taverns, professions, quests, different areas to go, you think to yourself, wow, if this is what I've got to look forward to in later areas, then I can't wait. And it's just such a shame that that was it. There was nothing more fleshed out other than that. Yeah, you could go into Avendir's Pass and move on through Wild's End, but really in my heart of hearts, where I really feel things should have been focused on and should have improved is less focus on necessarily fleshing out, you know, more servers or PvP or even to an extent working on other classes. I would have just focused solely on building out the world, because the fundamentals that are in this game for the world currently are really nice, and I don't mind saying that, even if I get a lot of pushback. I find the ambience and just the general world being of this game is really great. I just wish there was more of it to enjoy, and I really do feel like we're at a point now where it's just too late now. People have left, the ship has sailed, and regardless of what they decide to do with the world, the faith and the trust is gone. And that's a real shame, because I was really looking forward to this game. Really, really was. As someone who's played a lot of MMOs over the years, this game really caught my eye. It was kind of the perfect mix of something modern but something old. And it's just a shame that we're very unlikely for it to see daylight. Anyway, that's all I've got. Just a few thoughts.